Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your fave film critic. This is episode 2 of season 2 of the podcast starring your favorite film critic, me, Dom Griffin. I almost said attorney at large instinctively, like that would be a funny thing to add to my name, but that doesn't really make any sense. I am not a lawyer. When I was in 8th grade, I had a civics teacher who used to hound me mercilessly after class, telling me that I needed to go to law school. I was, 14, 15. I don't remember how old I was in 8th grade. And he was adamant. He's like, you'd be a great lawyer. And I was like, why? He's like, whenever we do debates in here, you're so good at it. Like, you're so good at arguing. And I was like, yeah, dude, I come from a broken home. I have a very dysfunctional family. That's not a skill I acquired through any, healthy means. And he was just like, doesn't matter. You'd be great. And I think about him every time I watch an episode of Better Call Saul. I'm always like, yeah, I guess maybe it's good that I didn't listen to Mr. Sock. Nice guy, but I feel like I probably would have ended up being like a criminal attorney or something. I don't think I'd have been like a Thurgood Marshall type. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to the new episode. As you'll be able to see if you are watching the YouTube video version of the pod, we're going dark this week, which is comical because it's not dark. Look, there's no video. It's not because I said it's going dark. It's actually going bright. It is entirely too... Okay, so normally I record the podcast like Thursday evenings, and you guys get it like Friday morning or whenever the hell you choose to listen to it. You're adults. You can listen whenever you want. I normally record Thursday evenings. That's usually like my spot. You know what I mean? Like I work during the day. I come home. I watch a little bit of TNA Impact, and then I put my little notes together, and then I come in here and I record. Every now and then I end up actually having to work on Thursday evenings, so then I just record like the night before, or occasionally, very, very rarely, I'll record during the day on Thursday. This is one of those because I worked last night as well. And unfortunately, it's like noon-ish. It's like high noon. And as I might have alluded to in the ongoing washing machine leak carpet drama, the guys that fixed my carpet broke the blinds in my bedroom. I don't even know how, but like they completely fucked it. I cannot close my blinds. And where my bedroom is situated in my apartment building, the sun is actually like outside, like the sun, like the titular sun is outside of my window right now. Like the way it looks on the Raisin Bran box, like the 2 scoops joint is just fucking glaring at me right now. It is so cartoonishly fucking bright. And I can't close the blinds. I don't have like anything I can really put up to block the light properly. I can't like record myself in here. It's impossible. It just looks really, really bad. And I also would have to put a shirt on. I'm not wearing a shirt. And I was like, fuck it. We're gonna go dark this week and this week alone. So yeah, sorry. I don't know. I might just, maybe I'll there'll be something on the screen. You're looking at something, obviously, if you're watching the video version of this. Maybe I'll just throw up some funny selfies or something. I don't know. Anyway, so this is a new episode. We've got some stuff to talk about. I didn't watch a ton of stuff this week, really. And by I didn't watch a ton, I meant I watched a movie. And the review I wrote about the movie immediately after it came out yesterday. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about another review that I just put out. And we'll talk about the handful of things I watched recently, I suppose. I got a bunch of little like news items to sort of talk about, and then have some questions. You guys know the drill if you're not new here. If you are new here, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us here on this journey. I had sort of intended, I'm a little embarrassed by how often lately I just tell you guys like, hey, I almost did a thing and then I didn't, but whatever, we like transparency here. my entire plan at multiple points this week was Amazon sent me the entirety of Mr. and Mrs. Smith like a month ago or something like that. And I had intended to just binge the show and try to make like a big video about it. I haven't done a video about like TV in like a while. I mean, I haven't done a video about anything outside of the pod in a while, but I thought I talked about the show a little bit on the pod when the trailer first hit, and it looked terrible to me. I had just no interest in watching it. So I kind of figured like, I'm probably going to hate this show. It's actually a lot easier to make content about things you hate. And weirdly, people love it. People adore that shit. They love it when I don't like stuff. I don't know what that's about. So I had sort of planned to make that my like return video or whatever. And every single time this week I had a chunk where I could like get into the show, I'd click on the link, I'd fire up the authenticator app to fucking access it and stuff, type in my little code, and then I couldn't do it, man. I would just hover my cursor over the play button and I'd look at Donald Glover's fucking face and I was like, I don't want to do this. Because like I just had this strong feeling I wouldn't like it. Do you know what I mean? And obviously there's lots of stuff I end up watching and reviewing that I don't like. That's just part of being a critic. What are you going to do? You're not going to like everything. There's nothing wrong with that. But man, I didn't want to. Like, I just straight up did not fucking want to, and like part of me felt guilty because I knew I was like I would have been going in with sort of like negative intent, and I would not have been going in wanting to give it a fair shake. Do you know what I mean? And I just didn't fucking, I don't know. It felt like disingenuous in some way. It felt like there are like you can go through the channel, you know what I mean? Like you can see all the stuff I've done. On several occasions, I've ended up hating something and then made a funny video about that hatred. And those videos tend to do pretty well. People tend to like them. I'm not ashamed of having made them or whatever. Like it's just part of the game. But this time felt like I would be going in like with ill intent. And I've been accused of that before, and it always bristles me because it's not really how I operate. Most other times, if you are familiar with the lore, most other times that you've seen me review something that I fucking hate, it's usually my friend Justin's fault, because Justin likes to, if he gets a whiff of something or he watches a little of something that's trash, he will convince me to partake as well, because it just, I don't know, he's like the Lucy Van Pelt in my life. He's just like, look at this football, bro. Come kick it. And then I kick it. And then I land on my fucking skull. And I'm watching something horrible. And he's just laughing. So, most of the time, it's not like I went in with ill intent. Like, I think I'm going to hate this. This will be funny. It's usually more that this is just like a shared bit between two pals, And in this case, I was like going to do it to myself. I was like, this is probably going to be bad. They sent me the show, so I'll be able to watch the whole show, before it actually premieres. I'll just do it. It's a lot of times like I'll make content about something if someone just sends it to me, but I chose not to. I just couldn't fucking do it. And my major reason was like, bro, I just don't want to spend like 6 hours watching something I'm not going to like. And I felt like I wasn't going to like it in a fascinating, constructive way. And I tend to think that even when I hate something, I do try to approach it with like a clear analytical eye. And I try to like delve into what I don't think works and stuff. And I think there's some value in that. I obviously also chock it full of like bile. But I like to think that I sort of arrange the bile into a sort of like digestible. It's like I'm gonna puke on a plate, but I'll put some microgreens on the edges of the plate and like maybe little like beads of some kind of like herb oil or something. I try to make it fancy. I don't know. But I didn't fucking do it. I didn't watch it. And then today I've seen like at least 4 or 5 tweets this morning already of people being like, hey, I thought this was going to suck, but it's pretty good. And I'm like, oh, now I actually feel even better that I didn't watch it, because I also sort of hate making, I thought this was going to suck, but it's pretty good content, because it's just like, there's often not a lot to say beyond, I thought this looked stupid as shit, and it turns out it's watchable, you know, like that just isn't really, I don't know. I'm definitely still in a bit of a phase of like overthinking everything I do. So we'll push through that, and then we'll just do things and stop talking about doing things. But yeah, I mean, I guess I still will watch the show, but it's like, when it comes to stuff that's like, I have pre-release, there's sort of a thing where it's like, if I don't watch it before the embargo, I might never watch it. It's kind of how I'm about like, movies like that, like to review. Like, I still haven't seen Wonka. You know, I had the opportunity to go to a screening for it. I didn't feel like it. It's been out for a while. My theater's been playing it for like a month. I'll see Wonka eventually, but there is no sense of urgency now. That is just not in the fucking cards, you know. It'll happen someday, I guess. But this is that part of the year, man. I'll talk about this a little bit more later, where like my inbox, whenever there's a screening invitation, it's like, you're screening that's coming out. People are gonna have to watch this. Ugh. You know, I mean, like, we get Dune 2 next month. That's cool, I guess. But like, in the interim, man, it's just a lot of dog shit. But that's every year. That's just like the way release schedules work. And I mean, sometimes what's cool about this time of year, when they just release a lot of, like, the dumping ground time of the year, is there are gems in there. You know what I mean? Like, this time last year we had Megan. Megan was great. I don't know if we're going to have a Megan this season. People seem to really like The Beekeeper. I haven't seen that yet. And I want to check it out just because it, you know, could be fun. But yeah, it's that time of the year. Like, I feel like if I went through my Letterboxd diary at this time of the year every year, there's just an abundance of rewatches. It's just like, oh, I could go leave my apartment and go see some dog shit movie that I know I'm not going to like, or I could rewatch The Firm. I could rewatch some movie from the 90s based on a Jonathan Grisham novel. You know, I can just hole up in my bed and watch every Wong Kar-wai movie. You know what I mean? Like, there's an abundance of things from the past that I could just revisit, which is maybe a little cowardly, like tiny bit cowardly, you know, but I don't know. I have no verve at the moment for like taking chances. It also doesn't fucking help that so many, like when I log into Letterboxd or something, a bunch of people I know have like gone to like Sundance or whatever. They're at a festival, and I just see like, oh, hey, your friend logged this movie. I'm like, oh, when's that come out? No idea. It doesn't even have distribution yet. And you're like, I'll go to a festival someday. I've never been to one, and I know it's sort of like a rite of passage as a critic. So yeah, like my feed is just like people going to see really cool shit I can't see, and then just hot garbage. Like, I'm gonna open up, you know, like an app to see what showtimes are around for upcoming movies, because I do have a handful of movies I want to go see, right? Like, I gotta go see Night Swim because it sounds like dog shit, like in a fun way. So I'm very curious about Night Swim. I want to see Beekeeper because like it seems like fun. I like Jason Statham, and I still have to see Zone of Interest. It's one of the only. It's the only Best Picture nominee I haven't seen yet, other than Past Lives. And I have Past Lives on my laptop. I just haven't watched it yet. So like, I'll rectify that at some point this week. But in terms of like leaving the house type vibes, you know, if I go and look at the Regal across the street from me, let's say I want to go to a movie tomorrow, my options are Argylle, which I saw and we'll talk about in today's episode. A bunch of random like Indian films that have one showtime apiece. Something called The Chosen, which I guess it looks like it's about Jesus. It's like a TV show they're airing episodes of. mainstream movie theaters that have more than like 10 screens are in hell right now. There's just not enough content to play, so they're just playing a lot of rando stuff. One showing of a reissue of Oppenheimer. Mean Girls, Book of Clarence. I have no interest in seeing that, really. Migration, no thank you. I don't have any children. Aquaman 2 was still out somehow. Anyone But You was still out. I haven't seen The Boy and the Heron. I mean, I guess that's like technically like a good movie I could go see. And but yeah, it's a weird time. So I suppose enough low energy rambling for me. We'll move into the real shit. So we're going to start off with the news. It's time for the news. At some point, you guys, I might just start making like really bad like MIDI music or like 8-bit music for like all the transitions. So it'll be the news. I'll just like play something from like Sonic 3 and try not to get DMCA'd. We'll see. Anyway, news. So speaking of Aquaman 2, this isn't really news, I guess, but we were talking about it in the group chat. Aquaman 2 has made like $500 million worldwide so far, which is more than double what the Marvels made worldwide. The Marvels made like 80-something million dollars domestic, and then a little bit under $200 million globally. Internet total on Earth is how much money that movie made. And Aquaman 2, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, is somewhere around like $430 million worldwide, which is like not good per se. You know what I mean? For how much money they pumped into it. But it is apparently, I think, the most lucrative DC movie since Aquaman. Like, those are essentially like the two high water marks for this entire era, and that's crazy. But people like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I mean, he's like fun. I think James Wan is someone who should get to make movies like this just because he has like the right appropriate approach of kind of like, let's just have fun with it. Since so many people have to do these interviews about superhero films, they're like, these comics are very important to me, and you know, there's this one graphic novel we really want to adapt, and you know, these stories can be real good too and shit. Versus James Wan's like, what if we had an octopus playing the drums? And you're like, yeah, man, rock on. That's probably the better approach, to be entirely honest. So I do think it's funny that people talked so much shit about it on the way out of coming out, and there were a lot of problems with it. But it clearly has, I mean, release date wise, there's nothing else out, as we established. And there's certainly nothing else out that's like a big action blockbuster. So it helps that there's no competition. But it is funny that it's like, you know, like this cockroach that survived the superhero movies are over apocalypse in its own neat little way. Yeah, and the whole superhero thing at the moment is in such a funny place. I mean, there's been plenty of, we've all had our it's over memes and jokes about how much Marvel is fucked. Like they announced that like I think they're doing like reshoots for Captain America 4, formerly known as Captain America New World Order, currently known as Captain America Brave New World, soon to be known as whatever fucking new title they have to give it after they redo it from scratch. But the length of the schedule, the reshoots, sounds like it's the amount of time it would take to shoot a new movie. And I know that movies, like, you know, productions of this size have a lot of reshoot time built into the structure of the production. Like, that is just the way it works. Like, you're going to have to do reshoots and tinker with things at this scale. That's just sort of expected. But delaying your movie a year and then reshooting for 3 months is like, that's not normal, obviously. And like, things have been going very badly for them. I don't know how reputable this was, but one of those like people that only reports about like superhero movie news, I think, was like talking about that they essentially have to cut all of the like Serpent Society stuff, which I think was just supposed to be like one big set piece in the first act. Sort of like how like Winter Soldier has him fighting like Batroc, and then like Civil War has them fighting like Crossbones. You know, it would be a sequence like that of them fighting someone just in the beginning and then they go away. And current world heavyweight champion Seth freaking Rollins was supposed to be one of the Serpent Society guys, and allegedly his part's been cut. which sucks for him, I guess, or good for him to be free of being tethered to this potential disaster. Who knows? But it's just, it feels like, you know, this should just be it. Like, I would love for every like rich person in power in Hollywood to get together and have like a Illuminati-esque meeting and just be like, hey man, no more capes. We're just done. You guys better figure out how to make Westerns again. Enough is enough. Cause like James Gunn just announced, or he didn't announce, whatever, Variety, Deadline, whoever announced that Milly Alcock is playing Supergirl in their Supergirl movie, which I guess she'll also be in Superman Legacy. There's gonna be a lot of people in this fucking movie. And like, we've now reached the phase where like the only new real news we're getting about superhero movies is who's going to be in the James Gunniverse. And every new bit of news is like just not exciting. Like finding out who was playing Lex and stuff like that was fine. But like every other new piece of information is just like, I'm like, okay, you guys are making a Supergirl movie? I don't fucking care. Like whatever, you know, all the other productions that people are very excited about, like, hey, who's going to be the new Batman? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Those things aren't coming anytime soon. So we're just having to subsist on what other 70 goddamn people are going to be introduced in Superman Legacy, and which of those people have their own movies coming up. Or I guess we're probably close to information on some of the shows that they're doing, I guess, you know, and like I don't care. It's not like I suddenly don't care about superheroes anymore or comics or what have you. It's just like, this is like firmly the least I've ever cared about what's coming up, you know? And every time I see a news story like new Supergirl is cast and my eyes glaze over, I picture me in like 5th grade when Miss Stanmeyer, the librarian, confiscated a copy of Wizard magazine that I'd foolishly let a friend of mine read at recess because she felt it was pornographic. Thanks a lot, Joe Madureira, for making Red Monica's tits so fucking huge in Battle Chasers that it looked like porn. But she took that magazine that I paid for with my hard-earned bingo money. I made it bingo with my great-grandmother that I spent at Rite Aid for, I think that was Wizard magazine issue 76. I think Captain America's on the cover of that issue. Whatever. Anyway, I think back to that era of reading Wizard, and like they used to have like little articles or little capsule pieces about like rumors about movie stuff. And, you know, 90% of those things never came true because they were all just like developmental, you know, they never got greenlit, never got shot and stuff. But you would get these little bits of stuff and you'd be like, what? They're going to do what? Russell Crowe might be Wolverine? You know, just stuff like that like just didn't go anywhere. And I remember how exciting that was. Anytime there was a rumor that they might maybe do something. And nowadays, most of those things do come true. And then they end up just being like completely forgettable. So who cares? And I just think about how if I made a list of like every superhero movie thing that happened in the last like 20 years and then wasted the magic of time travel to go see myself in 5th grade and be like, buddy, come here, buddy. Nicole Kidman is Aquaman's mom. And then me in 5th grade being like, the lady from Batman Forever? Yeah, dude. Dr. Chase Meridian is Aquaman's mom. And he'd be like, okay. Cool. I'm like, right? Oh my God, dude. Yeah. I don't know what other things I would tell him that he would be like flabbergasted by. Because I'm realizing how many people that are in these movies now like were not famous when I was like a child. I'm trying to think of who else has been in something where it's like actually a big deal. I'm just still thinking about Aquaman. Like, well, Willem Dafoe is Aquaman's royal vizier. He's like Jafar, but good. And Kid Me would be like, the bad guy from Speed 2 Cruise Control? Like, yeah, man. He's hanging out with Aquaman. And then Kid Me would be like, who's Aquaman? And I'd be like, this just like big fucking Hawaiian guy. I don't know, man. He's popular. He's like yoked and he's like a hunk or whatever. And my kid me would be like, that sounds kind of gay. Why are you talking about how attractive that guy is? I'm like, you'll figure it out eventually. So yeah, superhero movies to me are just like, whatever. at this point, and I realize that there's going to be more and more news this year that I'm going to be like, just not going to give a shit about. I did see something I think is pretty cute. It's just like every interview with anyone who's in Madam Web, like Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, like they're all just like, yeah, you know, we tried our best, which is not encouraging. And I like that this studio doesn't even seem to try to mitigate the bad word of mouth. Like they're just like, look, man, it's Sony's expanded Spider-Man universe. Like I said, I've said that to multiple people recently. These movies feel like a reverse heat check. It's like, how much worse can we make them? How much more low effort, and then still break even or make a little bit of money? It's like kind of like a weird limbo thing they're doing. And it really feels like all the people in Madam Web might have been temporarily tricked into thinking they were joining the real MCU. And then once they found out, they were like, oh no, it's going to be Morbin time. I'm on Morbin time now. And they were like, yeah, you should have read your fucking contract. You're never going to meet Samuel L. Jackson unless you separately end up in a low budget action film with him, because he will continue to do those, but he will not do this. Sam Jackson will show up to the opening of a letter if you pay him well enough, but he's not going to be anywhere near Kraven the fucking Hunter, I'll tell you that for free. So I would say I feel bad for them, but like they probably got paid, so like whatever, they have money. But it still just feels like that shit is just a mega rap, you know. Enough superhero talk. Fuck capes. I will say there's a news story going around with Jake Gyllenhaal where he basically is responsible for an independent production like falling apart. It was like a $30 million movie, I think, that he was supposed to star in. And the news report, like Discussing Film, had a tweet about it that I guess is how I found out. And I thought it was a Disbussing Film parody post because it's ridiculous. Like it says that he like at one point when they were trying to shoot, he like stripped down to his underwear and like jumped into like the freezing water and said some shit like, when I see the sea, I swim the sea. And that he and another actress in the film were talking like Pepe Le Pew from Looney Tunes at rehearsals instead of acting. And that he just pitched a bunch of wild shit, was just being a crazy person. As I was reading it, I was really worried it was going to be like some like creep. I mean, I guess stripping on your underwear is pretty gross, but like, I thought I was waiting for it to be like, oh, and also Jake Gyllenhaal's like a sex pest. So I was really grateful that it was just, he's just insane apparently. But it sounded insane in a way that was like, either he's just a heavy drug user, which is very feasible, or it also seems like he just wanted out maybe. Cause like it was a sequence of things where I was like, this sounds like you're trying to get fired. Like this sounds like you're just trying to make this movie not happen. So I feel bad for the people who are out of work because of this. Do you know what I mean? Obviously. But it also makes me wonder, what was that script like? Is there a thing where like maybe he thought this was going to be cool and then he worked with the director for a week and was like, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot. I got to get out of here. You know, what happens if Michael Bay or Guy Ritchie calls me and I'm stuck doing this bullshit? I got to be free for, you know, my new burgeoning side career as a bit of a bro actor. Like I've gotten very good at that. I want to go do more of that than this. And I don't blame him. He actually is remarkably good at being kind of a, you know, like that type of guy now. Maybe if I had been screwed over at the Oscars for Nightcrawler, I'd exclusively make movies with Guy Ritchie too. Fuck it. The last bit of news that I want to talk about isn't even really news, I guess. I just don't know how else to talk about it. Is World of Real. Jordan Ruimi, I think that's the guy that runs that site. World of Real is loosely reporting. It's not like super founded necessarily. So this could all be bullshit. That Paul Thomas Anderson did uncredited rewrites on Killers of the Flower Moon. And not like some rewrites. It's like they're making it seem like he rewrote the whole fucking movie, or at least that's like what the rumor is. Now, the truth might be that he didn't do anything. The truth could be that he doctored a handful of scenes or some problem sequences or things like that, which is probably more likely. Or, maybe he just, because, there was some contention about Eric Roth, the credited co-writer. I think Scorsese has a final script read it too. There was some contention that Roth had to essentially rewrite the movie when they chose to make Leo play Burkhart and not the FBI agent that Jesse Plemons ended up playing. So we know for a fact that the movie did go through extensive rewrites. But this theory, I guess we'll call it, seems to suggest that PTA was brought in at that stage, at the rewriting it stage, and did it from the ground up. And that's insane. Because some say that Roth was snubbed for a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination. And I don't know, the fact that fucking Barbie got one and they didn't, I would consider that a snub in that category. But he hasn't been very active campaigning, for award season. He was nominated by other bodies, but it's not like they were pushing for it. And that, I guess that, as opposed to some people, that begs the question, was he not actively campaigning because he knows it's not his work? Is this a situation where Paul Thomas Anderson just doesn't give a shit enough to try to go to, guild arbitration to get a credit? Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he just was doing it as a favor to Martin Scorsese. I know if Martin Scorsese asked me to do something, whatever it was, I'd probably just do it and not ask for, I feel like just getting that, having that asked of you would be credit enough. I don't even know if I'd want money. I don't know that I'd care. I get to be in a room with Marty being write it like this. Okay, whatever, dude. Anything for you, Dad. So I don't know, but that's kind of crazy. I can't think of another time in recent memory anyway, where something like this happened that was not then a humongous deal, but I guess the culture is a little bit different. People don't really give a shit about who really wrote something or whatever. You know what I mean? This isn't Tom Stoppard fucking rewriting Revenge of the Sith or something. You know what I mean? This doesn't seem like the sort of thing that draw a lot of attention, but to me, it's just nuts. And I guess the real reason it was kind of brought up too was PTA shooting his new movie, which I don't even think has a title, or if it does, it's Secret or something. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the star of that new movie, and they're shooting it already. So there's some set photos. So someone's like, "Oh, look, they're reuniting," and it's oh well, shit. I guess that would be reuniting. They would have met to talk about that if he worked on that. That's very crazy to me. I don't know. I hope to find out more. I hope there's some more information, but I'm not sure because PTA doesn't seem like a real chatty patty. You know what I mean? I don't think we're gonna get a RF video shoot interview with Paul Thomas Anderson where he's just smoking in a motel, being yeah, I wrote that shit. Yeah, I've got fucking heat with Eric Roth. I told him fuck Forrest Gump. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell that I don't really sleep a lot. I'm just weirdly tired. But anyway, yeah. So that's crazy. I don't know, it's something to think about, So that's the news section. I don't have anything else to talk about with the news, but I will talk about a few things that I watched. So I watched Ava DuVernay's film Origin a few weeks ago, actually, while we were on hiatus. And I reviewed it for the Baltimore Beat. So I'll link that in the show notes and in the YouTube description. And also last episode, I alluded to a podcast I guested on for my friend Murjani. That is out, so I'll put that in the show notes as well. But I had not seen Origin when we recorded that pod, and Murjani had seen it a couple of times. We were just discussing Oscar snubs, or things that could potentially be Oscar snubs, because we recorded it before the Oscar noms were out. So this was not right after the Golden Globe stuff, but I think it was after the Globe Awards that just happened, I guess. So we're just kind of talking about what was prevalent in the award season and what we thought would have been, but was kind of shut out. And there was a bit of a conversation. I'll let you guys just listen to that pod. It's pretty good, about Origin being a movie that was not a big contender, but it seemed like it should have been, given the subject matter and the filmmaker behind it. And that, you know, I'm pretty sure some people felt like it was in some way racially motivated and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, I think I don't want to rehash the entire conversation without Mirjani here, but the one at the time, since I hadn't seen the movie, I was just going off of like conjecture basically. And I was like, at the time, and I was like, you know, I feel like there are certain filmmakers where their films become Oscar contenders because they one time got an Oscar or one time were nominated. So then they have like, there's like a period of time after that where anything you do, you're still kind of in the wheelhouse, right? So I think about someone like Stephen Daldry, who directed Billy Elliot. Is that the Dancing Boy movie? And then like The Hours, I want to say. But then there was a period where he was up for awards for like everything he did, like regardless of quality. And I remember when I was younger thinking like, how the fuck does Daldry keep getting into these conversations? Like no one seems to care about him. But like, you know, it was, I want to say he did The Reader. That might have been one of his. And I remember at the time being like, bro, how? What's going on? Like, who does he have dirt on? And I think part of it just becomes like, hey, once we see you as being an awards-worthy filmmaker, then anything you do is you already have a bit of a foot in the door, or that's ideally how it should go. And that level of courtesy has not truly been extended to someone like Ava DuVernay, who, you know, was not nominated for Best Director for Selma, but Selma was like a bit of an Oscar movie. And other work that she's done has been up for a lot of awards. Like she's someone who, it's like technically is kind of in that league. And this is her first narrative feature film in some ways since Selma. And you'd think that would be a bigger deal. But like at the same time, like the movie didn't get its actual theatrical release until like a week or two ago. Neon, I feel like Neon releases good movies, but they don't release them well anymore. Like they don't, not to say they were ever great, but I just feel like Ferrari to me was an incredible fucking movie. I loved Ferrari, and like that is like an afterthought for award stuff. And Origin, kind of very similar vibe, even though I don't think it's anywhere near on the level of Ferrari. But I did think that it was fascinating, sight unseen, not having seen the movie, how similar it is sort of structurally, or like, I'm sorry, there's just like some like cartoonish fire trucks. And I live very close to a firehouse, so like there's just a bunch of periods of the day where like you hear them, and it's why I tend to try to record at night, because somehow you hear them slightly less. I'm saying all this, and honestly, I might just be able to like buff it out in the final audio, so you might not have heard that at all, but it was distracting to me, so I'm sorry. Anyway, Origin is very similar structurally, or at least like premise wise, to American Fiction, which is a film that I think is pretty good. I have a review of that also in the Beat, I'll put in the description. It's a movie I liked. I don't want to say I loved, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But it's up for a bunch of Oscars. It's like a prominent award season talking point. And I thought it was like just fine. I thought it was like a nice little movie. I didn't think it was like, you know, huge or something. But both films prominently feature like an author. In one case, a fictional one from a book. And then in another case, someone who's a real life person. And it deals with them grieving like some big like loss, and it also deals with them like writing a book and how that process dovetails with the grieving process and the way they interact with their loved ones and stuff. Except American Fiction is like a comedy, and it's supposed to be a satire, and it's about, you know, it's sort of skewering white people and how liberal white people love to read authentic black fiction, but to them that just means like poor black people shooting each other and writing in like, you know, like Ebonics or whatever. And that seems to be like most of the thrust of the movie. And having seen that in an audience full of liberal white people, they ate that shit up. They were just like gobbling it. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's like a video that people use as a reaction video of Speed. I think he's like a streamer or something. and he's like miming sucking a dick, but he's got like both hands wrapped around like this pretty large imaginary phallus, and he's just like kind of twist comboing it like in his face. That is every white person I've spoken to about American fiction. They're just like, they got to get both hands on it. They don't care about what happens to the roof of their mouth or the back of their throat. They got to just fillet the shit out of this motion picture, for better or for worse. And I look at something like Origin, having not seen the film at the time, and I felt like it is also about a black writer writing a book, but they're writing about something that's very difficult and thorny and confrontational. And that it's the type of subject matter that largely liberal white voters in the awards bodies maybe don't want to engage with. Like, it's one thing to ask a bunch of white people to watch a movie that's like, haha, y'all like when we do some bullshit, don't you? And then being like, yes, we do. We eat that up. Haha, funny on us. Versus like, isn't it crazy how complicit you are in the history of oppression and hatred and all the different deaths and bodies and subjugation and assault and abuse? Isn't it crazy how like you're kind of connected to that just by virtue of the color of your skin and the color of skin of your ancestors? And people are like, ooh, can I just post a black square? I don't really want to fucking deal with that. So that's kind of how I felt without having seen the movie. It was just like, yeah, I feel like American fiction is doing really well, because even though it considers itself to be satirical and like it pokes fun at all this stuff, it does it in a very tepid way. It's like very permissive, and it's really not that confrontational a picture. It's pretty like lighthearted. And it's fine. It's part of why it's an enjoyable movie. It's like pretty low stakes or whatever. Good for it, you know? And then having not seen it, I thought of Origin as being like, well, maybe Ava just tried to go too hard. And then that's why people didn't want to deal with it. You know, are you surprised that a bunch of people, largely white people, did not want to see a movie connecting like Trayvon Martin's death to like Nazi Germany and like lower caste Indian people and stuff? Like, you think they wanted to fucking do that? Are you crazy? You're a Barbie. What's wrong with you? But then I chose to write about it for the paper. So I went to go see it at work. Actually, I very rarely watch movies at the theater that I work at, but timing wise, I just went and saw a show right before a shift. And Origin was a very curious movie to me, because I don't remember the last time I saw something that at times moved me very deeply. Like, I felt very strong emotional responses to the film. And then other times I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they were going to fucking fall out like in a Tex Avery cartoon. Like, it was very strange, the whiplash I felt throughout watching the movie. Origin is a very ambitious picture. It's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Cast, The Origin of Our Discontent, I think is the full title. And it's a 500-page book about how, you know, in America, we tend to call a lot of different things racism, but that racism is really just a part of America's own caste system. And that, you know, India has a caste system, and that like Nazi Germany functioned like a caste system. And it's like the sort of thing you would assume someone would adapt into being a documentary. And Ava instead makes a movie that is partially functions like a documentary, but then also deals with the fact that Isabella Wilkerson, spoilers ahead for real life, I guess, that Isabella Wilkerson lost her mother and her husband not long before writing the book. And essentially, she was asked to write something about Trayvon Martin when Trayvon was killed. And she had a bunch of ideas, but chose not to because she was taking care of her sick mother. And then in quick succession, her husband died, like tragically with no warning. And then not long after that, her mother did too. So then she had nobody. And then she decided to expand all those ideas into a full book. And the movie shows her grieving process. Anjanou Ellis-Taylor plays Isabella Wilkerson. John Bernthal plays her husband for like 2 scenes. And at the moment, I don't remember the actress that plays her mother, but she was pretty good too. Anjanou's quite good in the movie because her performance is like, she has a lot she's responsible for, but then also there are huge passages that are just like like recreations of history or flashbacks in time with Wilkerson's real prose from the book uses voiceover. So in those scenes, Ingenue is not just sort of playing Isabel Wilkerson as a person, but she also is operating like a narrator in a documentary would, which is I don't want to say it's not easy, but it's like it's she does a great job at it, is what I guess I wanted to say. But the problem is that like Cast is a whole ass book that can like weave through all this different stuff, and in this movie has to do everything the book does, but then additionally it also has to dramatize this real person's life. It's a lot to do in 2.5 hours, and Ingenue is a very good actress, and she does good work. And there are individual parts of the movie that I think are very strong. Like, Wilkerson in her book uses different like stories from the past to illustrate some of her ideas. And like, she sort of creates like a connection between her interracial relationship with her white husband to Finn Wittrock plays a Jewish man. I don't remember the guy's name, who is from this like famous picture of a bunch of Germans doing the Nazi salute, and there's one guy in the crowd not doing it, like conspicuously not doing it. And she tells the story about that gentleman, how in real life he was like secretly married to a Jewish woman that I believe in the film is played by Victoria Pedretti from You season 2 and 3. And like that stuff is done pretty well. There's a scene where Wilkerson argues with I think Connie Nielsen plays like just like a German friend of hers or something, and they're at dinner and they're arguing over what's worse, slavery or the Holocaust. And it's exactly as clunky and terrible as you can imagine. And Connie Nielsen's character is pretty adamant that like, hey, it's different, because like Nazis were, trying to like eradicate Jews from existence, and then slaves were actually just sort of like gristle for the mill of capitalism in America, and yada yada. And the smoking gun is that Wilkerson finds like minutes from a meeting where high-ranking Nazi officials like explicitly state that they're going to model their new laws after the way America used the legal system to make black people seem like second-class citizens and like inferior humans, to say like, hey, see, this is connected. And then she connects, because like her thesis is basically like, it's not just about race, because this happens in societies where people look the same. And so, yeah, here's the thing. Throughout the movie, multiple people will look at Wilkerson and say like, I don't see it. I don't see how this is a book. I don't, whatever. And the more you watch the movie, the more you're like, I kind of agree with them. I don't actually see how this, like, yeah, these things are connected, but like, what does that mean? Because earlier on in the film, when she is asked to write this thing about Trayvon, Blair Underwood shows up for like one or two scenes as like an editor that she used to work with at, I believe, the New York Times. And he's like, so yeah, write that down. Ask those questions. She's like, I don't ask questions. I write answers. Like, that's the kind of writer I am. And by the end of the 2.5 hours, man, she did there are no answers. Like, she sort of like seems very self-satisfied at having like drawn these connections and been like, see, it's all caste. It's not just racism. This is what caste system is. America has one, done. But it doesn't actually answer any of the like difficult questions that are like alluded to earlier in the film. So by the end of the film, you're just kind of lectured a lot at, but like it doesn't feel like a complete thing. And when I was watching the film, the thing that stuck out to me the most was not the inherent fallacy of the book's argument, because I had not read the book, but what stuck out to me was like in between these pretty moving emotional moments, like depicting these sort of like artistically abstracted, basically like Trayvon's death, what happened to that Jewish woman and her husband, like all those things are abstracted in this way that makes them feel like the depressing myths. And that stuff is very moving on its own. And then there are parts of the movie that are very much almost like you're watching like a sort of like a lesser Malick or something, where it's just very ethereal and it's just images and sounds that like are arranged in a way to make you feel things. So like there's sort of a maybe we can't intellectualize all of this, but we can express this pain that has been handed down throughout generations, and we can draw connections between those feelings, and that could be a moving experience. In particular, there's this long passage in the final act, which is like mostly sort of like her summarizing the whole book, or the core tenets of her book. And she tells a story about this little league team that won a baseball tournament, and there's one black player, and the team went to go celebrate at a pool, and the little black boy couldn't get in the pool. And he has to watch all of his friends from behind a gate play in the pool on this hot day. And all the white parents are trying to force these people, like, let the boy play in the pool. Like, you know, none of them are that racist, essentially. Like, they're like, oh, we don't like black people, but come on, this is pretty fucked up. And they let the boy into the pool, but everyone has to get out of the pool. And they put him on a little floater, and they do like a lap. But the whole time, the boy is like, he has to stay perfectly still. He can't touch the water. And the guy that works, like the lifeguard who's moving him around the pool, is just like, don't touch that water, boy. You better not touch that water. And it's really heavy-handed, but a couple of scenes before this, I think it's a couple of scenes before this, there's a very controversial bit where they're showing a Nazi officer is about to execute a Jewish person at like Auschwitz. And when he goes to pull the trigger, it cuts to Zimmerman killing Trayvon Martin. And I think in an interview, Ava DuVernay blamed this on Guillermo del Toro, or said that it was his idea when they were in the editing room. And, you know, in the moment, when you're watching it, that moment feels emotionally true. Like it makes sense from a feelings perspective. But then later afterwards, you're like, yo, did they cut from Nazi Germany to trade? That was fucking weird. That was a weird thing to do. And to me, the movie works pretty well when it's just operating on feels, because it feels, as you're watching it, like this woman is wrestling with all of her conflicting thoughts, trying to put them together in an intellectually stimulating package. So it makes sense to just show shit happening in her head, you know what I mean, with this approach. But when I was watching the scene with the little boy in the water, I kept thinking back to there's a scene where Wilkerson's mother is kind of blaming the boy, by the boy I mean Trayvon Martin, that he should have just done whatever that white man told him, and he knows better, and he just, you know, we have to be not so naive about the way the world is. And I thought that scene of him floating on the pool water, but needing to be told not to touch it, I thought that imagery was so much more tethered to like what happened to Trayvon, like this sense that if you're black in this country, you you can float on the water, but don't fucking touch it. And if you touch it, you know you're doing this to yourself, like, you know better. And I thought it was odd that like I kept waiting for it to tether back to Trayvon there, because it felt so like such an obvious connection in my mind. But they'd already chose to do the Nazi thing. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. And yeah, there's the movie. If you just isolate certain instances from the film and you haven't seen it, someone just tells you what happens. Like a lot of people have talked about the Trayvon Force Ghost at the end. And to be clear, Trayvon Martin does not look like a Force Ghost from Star Wars. It's just the joke people are running with. Isolated, those creative decisions sound embarrassingly bad. So I understand. But in the film, it's nowhere near that. To me, it was nowhere near that bad. It's just not very good, you know? And like, you also have to sit through all these scenes that feel like people... It feels like people having these like staged fake conversations about heavy topics, like for an imaginary viewer. Like there's a bit where Nick Offerman shows up as a right-wing plumber wearing a MAGA hat who doesn't care about this problem in Isabel Wilkerson's house. And then she's like, I lost my mom recently. And he's like, I lost my mom too. And then he decides to help her with it. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you voted for Trump. We all got moms, right? It's like the fucking... It's like the kind of bullshit third way, you know, Hands Across America version of the Martha scene from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, only so much stupider and faker and more bullshit. I just hated it, you know, just shit like that, or like just characters just literally just saying like thesis statements like, oh, that's why it's this. And you're just like, okay, just, it didn't work for me. It felt really hollow. It felt very badly written. It's an ambitious picture. You know, a lot of the ideas are cool. And the fact that she tried to do all this stuff, like, and there are times that it's very beautiful to look at. And like I said, it was very moving at times, but when it was over and the more I had to think about it, it just got worse and worse. It was like in the moment, emotionally, some of it feels right. Then you start to think about it and you're like, no, it's actually kind of a bad movie. Actually, I think maybe that was not very good. So like I essentially over the course of a couple of weeks and having not seen it, then seeing it, went from maybe Origin was shut out at the Academy Awards because it was too challenging. And then now I'm like, no, it was just not good. It was just not a very good movie. And it was not, in fact, too challenging. It was entirely too pandering because it feels like this movie is as blunt and irritating as it is to try to reach people who like won't get it. And I'm like, the kind of people that would never pick up, cast, and read it. And I'm like, you mean the kind of people who wouldn't watch this fucking movie? You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like all the people who are electing to see this film, I feel like they know these things and they understand them. And if they don't, I don't know that they're coming out of this with a better understanding. I'm also going to, if I can remember to, I'm going to link to Jamel Bowie's Letterboxd review of the film, which I think I didn't read until after I read my review. And then I was like, fuck. He kind of gets at the more important thing about the movie, which is that the core, like, argument of the book and the film are basically flawed because it just completely doesn't want to deal with the concept of like class warfare at all, and it doesn't really want to deal at all with the idea of like capitalism at all, you know. And like it feels like it sidesteps so many things that are key to the issue she's discussing, and like it makes certain parts of the film read as very tone deaf. So I'll link that too. It's a pretty good argument he makes. I don't want to just parrot it and like steal it. Bowie's a cool guy. But yeah, that's Origin. Like I don't want to tell people not to see it because I don't think it's like horrendous. Like there's parts that I thought are good, but if you're on the fence, don't bother. I guess it's probably easier. But if you are curious, you should see it. You should form your own conclusions. I'm not right about everything. I don't think I'm right about very many things if we're being real. And I also watched Anatomy of a Fall, which I haven't reviewed anywhere and I'm not going to, but I liked it. I had avoided this movie for a little bit because I assumed it was a certain type of foreign film that like is mid, but that people overrate because some people who are not, I don't know, there's a section of people that like to see art house movies, and anything that is from another country, they just say is better because it's not from here. I worked at a strictly art house theater for a very long time, and we used to get plenty of movies that were basically shitty. They were basically like mediocre movies, but it's okay because they're French or they're Belgian or something, and people are like, oh, this is so much better. And I'm like, no, it's just there's subtitles, so you can't hear, you can't tell how bad this dialogue is because you're just reading it. You're not hearing someone really say it the right way. Stuff like that. And I thought this was one of those. But no, I thought it was pretty good. It's actually like pretty. It's a sort of movie like that. This movie was made in America. I mean, the court scenes would be very different because we have a certain fictional understanding of the way American courtrooms operate, and the court stuff in, I think this was in France. It's like a very different vibe. So that would be different too, but it's not like a highfalutin artsy fartsy movie. It's like, basically, this woman's husband dies. She's suspected of having killed him. We never find out if she did it or not. It doesn't really matter. But she's on trial, and like her entire life is on trial. And it really highlights the way that like she as a woman is being interrogated differently than if it had been the reverse. Like, you know, and the only person who could be a real witness is her blind son. But it's a little bit long, but I think it's pretty good. The dialogue's really great. The structure's pretty good. Visually, it's not like super impressive. Like, I feel like the director was kind of all over the place in terms of approach, but it worked, so I'm not going to complain too much. But the performances are really good. Sandra Hüller is one of the nominees for Best Actress for this film, I believe. She's really great. There's a guy who plays like the prosecuting attorney who's just like a real sassy little bitch. He's pretty good. My favorite thing about the movie is just that no one warned me going in how prominently a cover of 50 Cent's PIMP was going to be to the story. So like the steel drums from that song are practically score the whole film. Like it's all over the movie and just kept making me laugh. I was like, this is crazy, dog. So yeah, if you haven't seen Anatomy of a Fall, check it out. It's definitely worth seeing. I'm glad it's getting some Oscar love. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Like I said, not world, not like groundbreaking or nothing like that, but I thought pretty good. And then not groundbreaking, not good at all. I saw Argylle 2 nights ago. Argylle, and this movie fucking sucked. So if you want to hear anything I have to say about Argylle, I'm gonna spoil everything about Argylle. So if that matters to you, just skip ahead to the Q&A section. But there's not a lot to say about Argylle that is not, this is the plot and it sucks. So if you guys recall, Argylle was originally announced to be like Apple, I believe, had optioned it or whatever, and it was Matthew Vaughn was going to direct. It was like Apple was going to get into the blockbuster game. They're going to have a new spy franchise, and it's based on a book that hasn't come out yet by a lady named Ellie Conway, and we're very excited about it. Top secret, hush hush. I can't talk about the plot. And there was, I want to say Variety or someone was reporting on the fact that like no one could find Ellie Conway, like the real lady, and talk to her about this book, and the book kept getting pushed back. So people started to theorize that it was a pen name for someone who's famous. So, you know, like when Steven Soderbergh made Logan Lucky and no one knew who the lady was that wrote it, it turned out that it was his wife, Jules Asner, had written it under a pen name and just didn't want, you know, her first script to be like tainted by people being like, the lady from E, the guy's wife wrote this, you know? So that happens, pen names. I feel like the two most prevailing theories were that J.K. Rowling had written it, and the other one was that Taylor Swift had written it. And I'm not even going to parse that. Who cares? But then when the trailer for the movie finally came out, it revealed a key part of the premise, which is that Ellie Conway is the main character of the movie. And she's played by thick-ass Bryce Dallas Howard. And that basically Bryce Dallas Howard is a novelist, and she's written a series of books about a fictional spy named Agent Argylle. And when they show stuff from her books, it's Henry Cavill with this fucking horrendous hair. And John Cena is like sort of like his like partner. And then like Dua Lipa is like this other spy that they have to like catch or whatever. The trailers make it seem like Agent Argylle is a huge part of the movie, and he's just not. Like Cavill, Cena, and Dua Lipa are in like 2 scenes. Movie's nearly 2.5 hours long. There's maybe 10 to 15 minutes of footage of all of them together. And that the plot of the movie is that Ellie Conway has written these books about this Agent Argylle, but a real life spy agency is out to get her because the books have predicted a bunch of things that really happened in the spy world, and they need her to figure out what happens next with this MacGuffin because it connects to the book she hasn't finished that she's stuck on. So you would like for this movie to have some sort of supernatural element or something to make this make sense, because the movie tries to make comedy out of the fact that her books are very unrealistic, and like it's a cartoonish version of the super spy world that doesn't even really mimic Bond or anything. It's just very fucking fake and comic booky. But then once Sam Rockwell, a real spy, shows up to try to protect her, he's sort of like the Kyle Reese, I guess, of this story. You see that the real spy stuff is equally cartoonish and weird. So you're like, okay, so this isn't even a situation where you're trying to mine humor from a juxtaposition between like a real sort of like what espionage is like in the real world versus how it is in this lady's fantasy books. Like they make jokes about the fact that like Sam Rockwell looks like a weirdo, but then Henry Cavill looks like a Greek god and stuff. Like these books are almost like romances. And they're not. Like they joke about the fact that she doesn't relate to romance at all, and she's a lonely cat lady. She has a cat that's in the trailer and stuff, and the cat's in a backpack solely so there could be a poster that says the cat's out of the bag about the movie's big secret twist. Like, oh no, don't tell anybody the twist. I'm going to tell you all the fucking twist. It's actually incredibly obvious. the twist is that Ellie Conway is the real Agent Argylle, and then her real name is Rachel Kyle Argylle, and she was a CIA agent, and she was on a mission. She got like her mind, like she got hurt, and then like the evil spies like brainwashed her into thinking she was a novelist and they were her parents. And then they gave her enough stuff in a fake diary to make it seem like she had been working on a spy book. And then she used what they give her, and she essentially is writing these books from her own memories. And they need the full memories so they can find out where this like MacGuffin is. And Sam Rockwell is actually like her partner. She was like Henry Cavill. He was like John Cena, except they were in love. And I really hate that the movie like doesn't take the easy layup of having Henry Cavill and Cena make out at any point. It was like, what a waste of time. I know they'd both be down. Also, you have Dua Lipa in the movie. You didn't ask her to make a song for it, like a fake Bond song. Like, who the fuck? Why? And the big thing is that when it was first announced, Matthew Vaughn was like, this is nothing like the Kingsman movies. This is very different than Kingsman. It's a whole new thing. The movie's like not very funny. The action's like okay. It's very cartoony, like Kingsman kind of, but the CG is like worse. A lot of stuff just looks fake as hell. And not like, oh, the Henry Cavill stuff that's fictional looks fake. Like it all looks fake. There's no distinguishing between the worlds. And shout out to my friend Julian, who's also at the screening I was at. There's a mid-credit scene at the end of the movie alluding to the fact that there'll be a sequel that'll be based on book 1 of the Argylle series, like Argylle's origin. But the movie also ends with Henry Cavill showing up to like her book signing, implying that there is a real Agent Argylle, and then it does look like Henry Cavill. And then the mid credits teases that they're going to show that guy's origin, but that tease scene also basically alludes that he was working for the Kingsman agency. So this is a Kingsman movie, like it's a backdoor Kingsman spinoff. Like this fucker had the audacity to be like, it's nothing like that. Except, no, I'm actually planning a big crossover movie if anyone is stupid enough to fucking bankroll it. And I just thought it sucked. I thought that, like, if Sam Rockwell wasn't in it, because Sam Rockwell is very funny and entertaining, he dances a lot. I was saying to Julian, I'm like, I feel like when Sam gets a script, he's just like, I have to dance in this. If you don't let me dance, I have to play a racist, so I might get an Oscar nomination again. But either I'm going to say some slurs or I'm in a soft shoe, and you guys need to pick one. They went with a soft shoeing, which I guess is an improvement. But the film is, I just didn't give a shit the whole time. Like the movie has so many twists and reveals and stuff, but like there's nothing that makes you care. And it's unfortunate because like Sam Rockwell is very talented and he's charismatic. I think Bryce Dallas Howard's very underrated. I think she's a really good actress, and like also she's like, you know, she's like a huge babe. I saw, what's his name? There's like some, I want to say it's like one of the guys that writes for like Forbes or something had a tweet about the movie where he was like talking about how she steals the show. And I'm like, she's the fucking main character. How is she stealing the show? And he said something about like, it's just so nice to see a movie with like a curvy lady like that in the lead. And like, no shame about like, you know, being publicly horny for Bryce Dallas Howard. Like she has like a big butt, and like those are great. No shame here. We're not. This is not a shaming space. But this isn't a movie that even like. On the one hand, yeah, it is kind of cool actually that like a woman who is not like a skinny mini model type or whatever is the lead. But like it's not like the movie even really like shows her off or like lets her be like the focal point in that sort of way. Not like it has to. I'm not trying to make it seem like they should have sexualized her more. I'm just saying it was a weird thing to come out of the movie to be like, and isn't it nice that they had this fucking fat cow in it and not like a model? You know, it's like, well, that's not, I mean, that you're making this sound worse. Like, I mean, I think maybe you think you're being like really progressive minded, but you sound like an asshole. So I don't know. It's not the kind of movie that really like engages with that at all or something. Do you know what I mean? It's not the kind of movie that like makes a point that she's not like a skinny supermodel or whatever. Like she's just in it. That she just happens to be in it. It doesn't like do anything with that. I just thought he looked like a fucking nincompoop, highlighting that when there's so many other things about the movie that are just dog shit. And when someone was like, how could she steal the movie? She's the star. He's like, did you see the movie? It's an ensemble piece. It's not an ensemble piece. Henry Cavill is in it for like 5 fucking minutes. John Cena is in it for like 2 fucking minutes. Dua Lipa is in it for like 2 fucking minutes. Like, what do you ever? It's just her and Sam Rockwell in every scene, and some Bryan Cranston and Ariana DeBose is in it like twice. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? An ensemble? Are you insane? So yeah, I thought it was just dog shit. I thought it sucked, and like the action wasn't entertaining enough to make me not care about the other stuff. But like the screening we were at, people were eating it up. They were laughing. They were popping. So maybe this movie will be secretly successful. I hope not. I hope they never get to make another one. I don't give a fuck how it all tethers together. I think the thing that's funny is that like right before I went to go see it, the trailer for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, the new Guy Ritchie movie where Henry Cavill and a bunch of guys go kill Nazis. It looks kind of like an off-brand Glorious Bastards or whatever. That looks really fun. It's a really cool little cast, and Cavill looks like he's having a ball. So different than him being in this. And I remember there was a time where Matthew Vaughn was sort of being presented as being like a suaver, more versatile Guy Ritchie, and he has lost that race. He basically has one mode, and it's just Kingsman mode. Whereas Guy Ritchie can kind of do lots of stuff now, you know, and I'm really happy Guy Ritchie's getting a movie out every like 8 months, because they're mostly fun. I enjoy them, even the bad ones. This is bad, and I did not enjoy it. And unlike with Origin, where I say you don't have to see the movie, but you can if you want to, I would strongly say don't go see Argylle. If you do, I'm just going to laugh at you. I'm going to fucking laugh. And I'm very sorry, but I don't have a choice. I will laugh. Because fuck that film. Okay. I think that's everything. Okay, I think we're down. We have a little time for questions. All right, cool. So, first question. Susan asks, are there any director Oscar nomination snubs in this or past Oscar seasons that you were bothered by or that you thought were undeserved snubs? The best director category is interesting because it used to be that there'd be 5 best picture nominees and then 5 best director nominees. So almost every year there would be like one movie that the Academy felt was deserving of best picture, but that the director was not deserving of best director. So, you know, like Argylle, Jesus. Argo, for instance, was like a best picture dealie, but Ben Affleck was not nominated for best director, you know, or he didn't win. I don't fucking remember. So sometimes that's going to happen, right? There will be a movie that you're like, hey, we love this movie, but we don't feel like it's the director's fault that we love it, you know? So it used to just be, there'd be like a movie out of step with that. But then when they changed it to being up to like 10 nominees, now that means like half of the best pictures, the best directors are not going to line up. And very rarely will a movie be nominated for best director, but not best picture. I shouldn't say very rarely, because that would require me to actually go up and look at these stats, and I don't know them that well. But every year, the best director one never really shocks me that much. When it comes to the best director category, I'm much less a damn so-and-so didn't get nominated and much more of a they let that fucking guy in. Like when Tom Hopper, is it Tom Hoop? The fucking guy that did Cats and King's Speech. That guy fucking sucks. And I think he fucking sucks hard. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing bothers me where I'm like, that fucking loser? They're going to let that guy at the event even? They should make him sit outside. That bothers me more than people not getting nominated, because like fucking a lot of great directors never got an Oscar. So that's like the one category. Like for actors, it's different, I feel like, or even writers. But when it comes to directors, if someone doesn't get a best director nomination, I'm almost like, that's probably a good thing, dude. Lots of great directors never got them. Don't even sweat it. You know, I can see how that would bother someone, but another part of it would just be like, don't even worry about it, man. You're fine. Most of my angriest Oscar snub things, excuse my yawn, really are just usually acting stuff where it's like, you guys saw that performance and you didn't agree with that, you know, like I said earlier, I think I referenced it. I'm never not mad about Jake Gyllenhaal not getting nominated for Nightcrawler. Like that is insane to me. Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems. Insane to me. I'm sorry. I cannot fucking abide by it. There's a handful of ones like that. Those bother me. But I was actually pretty happy that this year I didn't feel anything really strongly. I was like very proud. This felt like growth. That I was like, you know what? Whoever wins wins. I'm finally growing up a little bit, I guess. You know, but I don't really care who wins as long as you know, as long as no, actually, for the best director in particular, I don't even care who wins it all. It'd be cool if Nolan did, I guess. He's never gotten one before. Might never again. That could be nice. He seems like a good guy. Thanks, Susan. Good question. Next question. Kyle asks, for whatever reason, I still have an unopened package of the promotional tissues they gave out at a screening of Marriage Story. eBay, here I come. And it got me thinking, what is the wildest promotional tie-in item you've seen for a movie? I'm a little mad that that's the one you picked as an example, because it's probably my real answer. And not because it's wild, but because... Okay, Kyle, I'm assuming we actually got them from the same place, because 2019, you were still in the city. Okay, yeah. I came to East Street for a screening of Marriage Story. I think it was one of the like Guild end of the year for your consideration screenings, and they were giving out those little packets of Marriage Story branded napkins, which I thought was very funny. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I took a picture of them outside your office. I'll go look the picture up later, maybe I'll throw it up for the video version if I can find it. But yeah, I think I took it like outside of your office. And I don't remember if you were there that night, but when they handed it to me, it might have been Colleen. I don't remember. Someone from Allied was there, and they were like, haha, you know, because this is for to dry your eyes, because it's a drama, it's a serious movie. And I was like, haha, yeah, sure. I definitely used them, though. I did leave that movie crying. So I remember thinking, like, this is so crazy and extra and stupid. And then I was like, oh, but I need them. I ended up actually needing them. So I guess I can't call that one wild. That was pretty smart and useful. I've had a handful of ones where that were like kind of weird. There was something I went to recently. I can't remember. Where I was like, oh, I kind of want to keep this because it seems like a cool thing. I don't remember what it is. So I'm very sorry. But it was like so small that I think I lost it like right when I left. I don't know if it was like a pin or something, but like sometimes they come up with these tie-ins that are like cool ideas, but they're just not practical for like, I'm coming to a movie and then I'm leaving the movie with it. And if it's like too big, I don't have a bag to put it in. If it's too small, I don't have a pocket small enough to put it in. You know, those tissues are perfect because I used them and I threw them away. But sometimes you get something where it's like when I went to Maestro, recently, they gave us like, I'm so dumb. They handed me like a little bag that had this like large flat thing. And I thought it was a record. I thought it was a vinyl of like Bernstein's music or something. I was, oh, that's cool. That's neat. And then I got home and it was like a, not even like a book. It was like a bunch of like photo cards or some shit. And I was like, I don't fucking want this, you know? So like my issue with these things is usually they give you stuff that I'm like, I don't even know anyone I could give this to who would like it. I don't want it. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? I actually think the one thing that they do with these screenings sometimes that always annoys me is that like they won't warn people that like they're going to give out like gift cards or free vouchers for popcorn and soda and stuff. So on more than one occasion, I have rushed from work to a screening with no time to eat dinner. And then I'll go to the theater and I'll go get food. I'll run right to get food because sometimes it takes a long time. I don't want to miss part of the movie. And then I get over there with like my overpriced chicken tenders because I'm starving. And they're like, oh, dude, we could have paid for those. And I'm like, well, if I'd known that, I would have come over here first. But I just, never mind. It's fine. So that's actually happened to me multiple times lately where it's like I've rushed and eaten something before I get there. And then I get there and they're like, oh, you have free popcorn? I'm like, I don't fucking, that's meaningless to me. You know it's meaningless to me. You know that. So, yeah. That was a really great question that you fucking ruined by picking the thing that I would have named if you had not specifically named something. So thanks, Kyle. Fucking dick. Remind me later. I'll just text you if I actually remember the thing that I'm talking about, because I cannot fucking remember it. Final question. Born Hitman asks, with the new Monkey Man trailer, who's someone who hasn't starred in an action movie that you would love to see helm or feature in one? That is a good question. So I thought Monkey Man looks cool. It's very clear that like Dev Patel has wanted to get roles doing action stuff because he's like an actually trained martial artist, but he hasn't been getting them for what are probably pretty obvious racist reasons. And so he made his own, and it's Universal's putting it out theatrically. Pretty cool deal. It looks pretty good. He looks good. I like Dev Patel. Most of my interest when it comes to like action movie stuff, the only people I ever care about getting to do action movies that haven't done them aren't like specific actors where it's like, okay, I would have never said I wanted to see Bob Odenkirk in an action movie. Then they made Nobody, and I was like, oh fuck, I love this. I wouldn't have come up with that. So I feel like my actual answer would be that it's someone I would not think of, but then once they get the training, it would be pretty cool. I don't know who that would be. I don't know, maybe like Shea Wiggum or something, or like Seth MacFarlane would be funny to see him get like shredded and learn how to do martial arts, but then still sound like Seth MacFarlane. Someone like that. I feel like I don't have like a good answer, to be entirely honest, but most of the time I just think of like wrestlers. So there's lots of wrestlers that I like, and I'm like, why hasn't that guy done a movie yet? Because I feel like that's just like a rite of passage. If you're a pro wrestler, they should find space for you in a Fast and Furious or something, you know. They should have you and Jason Statham fight. And if we go that route, I would say that right now I cannot wait for the day when current WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns gets his work schedule reduced enough to have time to go make movies. So far, the only movie I think he's been in is he has a small bit at the end of Hobbs and Shaw as one of The Rock's cousins. Must have done a lot of research for that complicated role by being one of them for real. But he's got a great look. He's got a great presence. And I think it would be cool to see him in some kind of like Jack Reacher-esque role. Really, you could just have him take any role that Jason Momoa doesn't want to do, because he's just Jason Momoa, but less goofy. He's like way cooler. So like I would love to see him do some kind of action movie thing. I really like that, like, I've never actually sat and watched one, but like Dolph Ziggler, who's now wrestling under his real name because he doesn't own Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, has been in a couple of movies for WWE Studios back in the day. And Dolph just looks like a blonde palette swap Kurt Russell. So, and like he even kind of sounds like him sometimes. So I definitely would like hope that he gets to make more action movies now that he has more free time. Not even like he'd be great or something, but I think he'd be fun, I would say. But right now, the one I've been thinking about the most lately is Cody Rhodes, who is now WWE's undisputed most over babyface. Is like their top good guy. Kids love him. He sells a lot of toys. You know, he sold out a run of plushes that look like his dog. Like he's it. He's like our new top babyface guy. I don't think he's done any movies before, and I would love for him to get sort of the Cena treatment of being in stuff like The Marine, but maybe a little higher caliber. Just because I want them to only cast him in parts where he's just playing himself and this good guy persona he's crafted, but just in various situations. Like I'd love to see him being like a veteran returning home who has to like stop a kidnapping or some shit like that. He's not even like the most artful, agile guy, so I don't even care if he knows how to do cool hand-to-hand combat stuff. I just think he would be great for the part where he's crying because someone's kidnapped his wife, and then the part where he gets her back, and then all the parts where he's like yelling and kind of also crying on the phone to someone, because he's really good at that shit. So if someone could get him in a movie, you know, from like the John Wick guys, that'd be cool. Or you know, another wrestler. I'm sticking to the wrestling theme here. If they could get Drew McIntyre into the Highlander movie that the John Wick guy is doing, that would be cool. That seems like a pretty easy layup. I want to see someone cut Drew McIntyre's head off and then have lightning bolt hit them. Yeah. All right. This episode ended up being a little longer than anticipated. So, sorry. So, that's it for this week. Thanks for the questions, guys. If you are watch this on YouTube and you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the little bell icon to get notifications whenever I put out new videos. And if you have any questions, just like generic questions or something, you can ask me in the comments and I'll answer them. If you have any questions for the pod, you can put those there. You can email them to me at armchairauteur@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can message me on Instagram. However you know how to get to me, you can throw a question my way and I will answer it on air. But yeah, thank you guys for supporting. And obviously if you're just listening to this, and you're on whatever your podcast platform of choice is, share the pod with people, maybe leave me a review, that sort of thing. Help grow this little thing of ours. But yeah, thank you guys for rocking with me faceless this week and for rocking with me in general. I really enjoy doing this and I really am grateful to have the audience that I do, and you guys just rock. So thanks. We'll talk soon.